and welcome to Legal Affairs. My name is Diamond Liddy, and I'm the public defender of the 19th Judicial Circuit. We all know that mental illness is pervasive in our community, in our schools, in our state, and certainly in our country. And there's been a great increase in treatment options. And although most of us think about certain things that you would do or treatments you would have for mental illness, there's a lot more out there now, and thus the reason we have with us Stephanie and Justin, and I'm going to let them tell you their last names because it will be easier for me because they both have unusual last names. But Stephanie, you are with iMind, and your title is?
I'm the Director of Business Development.
Okay, and Justin?
Baksh, founder and CEO of iMind Mental Health Solutions.
Okay, and before we get into some of the neat things that are going on regarding mental illness, Stephanie, let's start with you. What's your background? Where did you come from? How long have you been here? Talk to us,
So
please.
First, thank you for the opportunity and the privilege of being here. We're really excited about it. So I am a person in long-term recovery. I have a background in substance use disorder and mental health. I came to Florida in 2011 and quickly got a job in the substance use disorder industry, and recognized that there's a lot of co-occurring disorders.
Okay, now you're talking, as a therapist. So the listeners and viewers, now, what is a co-occurring disorder?
A co-occurring is having a substance use disorder and a mental health disorder at the same time.
Right,
so
right,
co-occurring.
Right.
And I'm not a therapist.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what I mean. We're
right.
I always laugh about talking about legal terms, res judicata and all those things that nobody understands. But
Understood.
And that's a tough thing. It's a lot worse than just being an alcoholic or a drug user. But if you've got mental illness combined with that, you're really at risk. But anyway, go ahead, Stephanie.
So, and what I've learned through the years is that most of the substance use and drug abuse and alcoholism has an underlying mental health disorder. And so that led me to really kind of, go down that path of trying to help people get into treatment that would address their mental health issues as well as their addiction and substance use or disorders. And so along the way, I've been able to connect with a lot of community services that are out there. I'm currently active on the Treasure Coast Opioid Task Force, Florida Association of Recovery Residences, Recovery Workplace Coalition, things like that bring to the forefront the mental health issues and solutions to those mental health issues.
Okay, and so you've been in the field for how long?
Since 2011.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and was that always in the Treasure Coast or was it somewhere else?
I had the ability to tour multiple different programs when I worked for another company, but right now I'm specifically in the Treasure Coast. This is my stomping ground, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And Justin, what about you?
Yeah, so again, thank you as well for having us out here today. Stephanie and I's path actually crossed back in 2011. We worked for the same company back then, so we've been together for quite some time.
Fails.
No, my journey started, once upon a time, way back when. I was a former Marine. Kind of took me some time to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up going to school for psychology, becoming a licensed mental health counselor. I'm also a master's level certified addiction professional, qualified supervisor, certified recovery residence administrator, board certified telemental. So lots of alphabet soup behind the name. But no, my passion. That's
so
all
you have
been
a lot of not acronyms, letters behind. Yes, I got that.
But all my professional experience has been here in the Treasure Coast as well. Typical immigrant family, moved from Trinidad to New York. realized it was a little too cold for us, came down to Florida in '85, been here ever since.
I guess it was from Trinidad.
Yes. So, we're in Fort Lauderdale, then West Palm, ended up here in Port St. Lucie. And, this is where I had a younger child at the time, the family environment. So really just fell in love with Port St. Lucie for the family feel. So now being a provider on the Treasure Coast, the reason why iMind was founded is that I found that it was difficult when I had a private practice and somebody needed additional help. You had to refer out. They're less likely to follow through. You've got to make an appointment, run insurance,
right.
you have to even
Kinda
accept
like
insurance.
doctors, right.
So the idea came that why don't we just bring all the services in-house? They're probably more likely to follow through. Plus, it allowed me to bring in different modalities, interventions, techniques, and whatnot. So I think this is where we're seeing a lot of the success that we have, is that we're able to just have a one-stop shop for mental health, if you will.
Okay. And before we get down the rabbit hole, so to speak, and talking about that, you obviously provide services for those who have insurance or whatever, but for those who don't, there are options, correct? A payment plan, a sliding scale,
Yes. And 2 steps further from that, we've built this, I don't want to call it the luxury model. I was talking to Stephanie on the way over here, is that, you're getting the services of the Ritz-Carlton, but you're paying for the Motel 6. Because of the way that we're structured, we're going to be a Medicaid provider here within the next 30 to 60 days, which, again, opens up more access.
Right.
In addition to that, I've also had a nonprofit waiting approval with the IRS since December of last year. So that we've already aligned with sporting events, local donors, where truly the indigent population will be able to have access to care through that entity as well once it's granted. So, but yes, sliding fee scales, self-pay options, very competitive self-pay options compared to the area. And then we're in with the commercial payers, veteran community care network with the VA, TRICARE, Medicare. We take just about everything out there.
Okay. Now, it's important because, unfortunately, mental illness, doesn't target poor people, but certainly in my field, I see it so often, and they don't have the funds to get the help they need. And you folks offer alternatives to what the standard treatment is, and let's talk about that. And Stephanie, if you want to start, or Justin, it doesn't matter.
So we spoke the other day about talk therapy.
Right.
And we were talking about how, it's wonderful. There's all different types of therapies that you can go and see, therapists for, including trauma, which is one of the big ones that we treat. There's different therapies for that. One of the ones that stands out is EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization. Eye movement desensitization.
Reprocessing.
Yes, reprocessing. Thank you. I knew there was an R in there. And that kind of speeds up the process of somebody's feeling better after a traumatic experience.
Okay.
And so it doesn't take years of therapy, laying on a couch, as you put it.
Well,
sitting
that's
there
old
talking
school, but
to
that's
someone,
what
but that's
yeah.
what people think.
Yeah.
And there are therapies that will speed up the healing and let people get on with their lives without being, held back by, triggering traumas and things like that.
Well, what is that?
What is a triggering trauma?
No, what is the IMDR STQ?
Well, I'm going to let Justin explain
Yeah,
that
what
because
is that?
he can even say it.
So, normally when we're processing, we're using one side of our brain primarily at a time. EMDR uses something called bilateral stimulation. It gets both sides of the brain active at the same time, because when we're connecting, filing, and storing memories, we're using both sides of the brain to come together and kind of file those away. Well, when you experience some type of trauma, this is where you have flashbacks, the PTSD type symptoms, the nightmares. The brain really doesn't know what to do with these memories. So this is where, again, you have these symptoms. EMDR helps reconnect, process, and be able to file those away. So it's not you're erasing the memories or the experience you've had. You're being able to provide closure or resolution to reduce the emotional impact that it has on you.
I gotcha.
So it's it's for complex trauma. It works very well. In addition to,
But so is it talk therapy too, or is it some kind of electrodes on your brain?
Yeah.
Do you drink something? Do you chew something? What? Seriously?
so there are components of what they call CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, that you can attach into DBT, dialectical behavioral dialectical behavioral therapy as well. So it's talk therapy, specific techniques. There are some, I don't want to call them props, but tools or equipment that's used. Anything from a light bar, sound bars, tapping. There's different ways that you can activate the process. So you're going outside besides saying, hey, Diamond, do you understand that this happened to you? But they're using techniques to make the brain more open and flexible or adaptive to the talk therapy. Some other cool things that we have in addition to that is that we've started using some technology-based or pharmaceutical-based interventions as well. Give an example, biofeedback has been evidence-based and around for a while. So that
Okay,
is
what's
something.
biofeedback?
That's where we've got technology, and I'll give you an example of a couple of them. One of the ones that we use is called the Muse headband. It's a headband that you put on that takes your biorhythm, so heart rate, breathing, blood pressure. Normally the first thing that happens when we're experiencing some type of emotions that we have an elevated response, right?
Right.
Fight, flight, freeze. Is this going to be something that's good and productive, or is it going to cause harm and consequence so the body's ready to go? Well, the biofeedback takes the data and says, hey, breathing is escalated, you're breathing more shallow, your heart rate is up, and it gives you that live feedback in an app, and then through the app, the person is trained to reduce that and calm and soothe. Because we don't want to be reactive, we want to be more proactive and responsive.
So the theory is if you know what's going on,
You can make a better decision.
you can, okay, and you can calm yourself down and you
Yes.
can get, okay.
You just need a moment, right? And it's a live, interactive, and it tracks, actually gives you graphs, of progress and things over time, and that's just one of the many things that we do.
Oh, okay, which is good. In other
Yeah.
words, last month I had 15 episodes
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
tell me if I'm just trying to
Absolutely.
make it.
Yeah.
And this month I've calmed myself down and I've only had 3, for example. Wow.
The problem with human beings, self-report is so subjective, right? Is I'm feeling better, but there's no tangible way to say I'm feeling better. But when
Oh,
we
that's
can
a good
show
point.
you,
Right.
when we can show you that, hey, look, you are less anxious, your breathing is not as escalated, your heart rate is not as escalated, then you start doing talk therapy, like, you know what? I did make a better decision, because normally I'd be up here, but then I made the decision down here. It's little small gains and ways to show progress.
Oh, wow.
In addition to just feeling the progress.
Okay.
So we've got the Muse, we've got the Alpha Stem, we've got Alpha Stem literally works on the alpha state, which is the state right before theta, right? So you've got alpha, beta, theta, and delta. So before we sleep, the most relaxed state we can be in, where you're not fully asleep, but you're almost asleep, so
Right.
you're still conscious. The Alpha Stem just helps regulate alpha. This has been around for over 40 years. Helps reduce depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms, insomnia, chronic pain, fibromyalgia.
What is it, an alpha stem?
It's just a device that just puts a frequency. It clips onto the ears, and it helps regulate the person's frequency. So you're not doing it, you're doing talk therapy while this is attached to you. And what we've seen, or what I've experienced in session, the person just starts melting and just relaxing. So that's a form of neurofeedback, where the device is just helping regulate the person. Biofeedback involves more interaction, where they're consciously involved
Right.
with, in a kind of a back and forth. And not all the devices are the same. There's tons of different equipment, and options out there, but that's just a couple of the ones that we use.
Okay, so let's go through the alpha, beta, theta thing. Alpha's right, you're about to go to sleep, and you're...
Alpha's the wake
But-
state. That's
okay.
us right now.
Okay.
All right. No, sorry, excuse me. The alpha is the state right before sleep, which is the
Right, right. We're not, and hopefully we're not, because it's a great show.
We're relaxed.
And it just helps because, if you think about when a person is stressed, anxious, depressed, when they're experiencing any type of mental health symptom, even if you're happy, because even if you're ecstatic, it's like, oh, I can't go to sleep, the alpha is overstimulated
Okay,
or understimulated.
okay.
So if we help move that from an overstimulated or understimulated state to a more
Level,
of what the person is used to,
right.
then again, they're self-soothing, they're more aware of.
And this helps the body do that, and therefore, is it kind of, then the body will get used to that? Is that the theory? That they'll...
Retraining.
Okay.
Retraining. So a good example would be like, maybe that mailman that pulls up to that house that always has that dog out front. I know when I go to this house, I'm going to be anxious, right? The body's conditioned to be ready for that response.
Right, right.
These devices, whether it be biofeedback, neurofeedback, or any of the technology we have, undoes what, has been a conditioned response, basically.
Okay.
So instead of knowing, and the body's in that, again, fight, flight, the immune system, the cortisol is running, it's okay. I know when I go to this house, there's always a fence there, because now the therapy's coming in, right?
Right.
It's not rational. The dog has never jumped over the fence. I don't need to be anxious.
So it's a combination
Yes.
of things that clip on your ears, which I had never heard of, by the way, and this is very interesting with the talk therapy.
Yes.
Okay.
It's got to be a
counseling.
combination of different things. There's no one fix, one pill, one therapy session.
Right.
The more collaborative we are, the more successful a person can be in meeting their goals.
Okay.
So I have a story about that, about the Alpha Stim. I don't know if I ever told you this. Back when we were working at the other place, they were doing some of that, and I had the opportunity, I was experiencing some anxiety. And I had the opportunity to try the Alpha Stim, and it's a little thing, and you dial it up, and you clip it to your earlobes,
Right.
and you can feel your breathing start to get slower, and it takes the anxiety, it takes that edge off the anxiety.
Right.
And I remember that I loved it so much that I went and bought one. And I remember the last time I used it, I was at Fort Lauderdale Airport, waiting in line.
And you just clipped on
I was
it.
almost going to miss my flight. Like, I was late getting to the airport, and I was having like a panic attack.
Right.
And I took it out and I clipped it on my earlobes, and I made my flight. And I remember that like it was yesterday. It
And
was
you
just-
didn't have a meltdown.
No, I didn't. I was nice, and I wasn't mean to anyone because I was in an anxiety, and and it really, really works.
Wow.
And it's not as, I don't think it's used as readily as it used to be. There's things that now work a little bit better, I think, but it worked for me. So,
Like, for example, what works better than that?
So it depends on what we're talking about. So some of our star or top tier treatments that I'm very, very proud that we were able to provide to the community. To give you an example, is transcranial magnetic stimulation, so TMS. What this is for treatment-resistant depression. So that machine, and then Spravato, which is the S-ketamine, is the only FDA-approved treatment for, number one, if you're having active suicidal ideation, is something that you can prescribe for, which is phenomenal. But Spravato, being a pharmaceutical, does in less than 24 hours what traditional antidepressants will take 2 to 4 weeks to do. So very fast acting. But the TMS machine is basically a helmet that you wear. It's like a little mini MRI machine, and what it's sending pulses to the underside of the limbic system, and what that's doing is helping stimulate neuronal growth. You're taking the antidepressant, but it's creating a space that, the synapses, the receptors have just been kind of worn over time.
Right.
The medication may just be stagnant, maybe it's not being absorbed or, staying in the synapse the way it needs to. So this just says,
Wow.
hey, wake up, neurons, wake up. And within a week, people are saying they're sleeping better. Within 2 weeks, they're starting to feel the positive impacts of feeling less depressed. So, we've got alternative anxiety treatments, we've got alternative depression treatments, you've got the talk therapy, the medication, and now technology that we can all combine.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like the community needs to know, that there's so much more out there than
Absolutely.
I'm just hearing about some of this, and I'm in the business, so to speak. So I was so interested in having you folks on the show to talk about so many options because no one knows better than you two how debilitating having a child, having a mother, having a husband, whatever, with mental illness or alcohol or drug dependency can be. I mean, and you're throwing up your hands because nothing's working.
Absolutely.
The other thing that's so interesting to me is the fact that you're not, and I guess this is the $10,000 question, you're not taking medication that gosh, these commercials these days, that it advertises for a medication that will cure your mental illness, but your hair turns blue and your head spins around 8 hours a day. I mean, the side effects aren't worth the medication. Do these alternative treatments have the same side effects or no?
Minimal to none, depending
Really?
on which one we're talking about. Yeah. So the alpha stem, exclusion from that is if you're pregnant, history of epilepsy.
Right,
Sure. Things like that, but it doesn't create a symptom or side effect like traditional medications do.
Right.
So this is why where some people that have struggled, for decades, maybe an entire lifetime, will choose a technology-based alternative because, the pharmaceuticals just haven't been working.
Okay, let me ask you this. Those with severe mental illness, let's say schizophrenia, things of that nature, the beauty of mental health court, which you all know about, helps people keep them on their medication so they don't have an episode, a schizophrenic episode, but you have to take that sometimes for the rest of your life
Right.
to remain normal, sane, whatever you want to call it. Do these alternative treatments, do you have to do them for the rest of your life or do they even touch people with, let's say, schizophrenia? Do they cure you, or is it something, you see what I'm like?
Yes.
Okay.
No, so there's no cures here.
Okay.
These are just alternative forms of treatment that, with collaboration with other things, can have longer term success.
I gotcha. Okay.
That's
And quicker
yes.
success, as you mentioned,
Yes.
Stephanie.
There
Yeah.
are maintenance cycles, and don't want to get too deep into the specifics, but,
No, but
there are maintenance opportunities with a lot of what we offer. But the goal again is, with a tech treatment, with medication, with therapy, the person is more now 60 to 80% maybe capable of handling that next episode, that next anxious event, that
I
next
gotcha.
one, where it doesn't need to, I need to come back and do this all over again.
Right.
And that's the difficult thing that we've all experienced with schizophrenia is that, that medication compliance is absolutely key. And the one thing that we can't impact with anything that we do is that choice that a person has, whether it be irrational or rational.
Right.
Because I'm feeling well,
I'm
classic
feeling
is-
well, I don't need to take it. Yeah, and that's what happens, unfortunately. And these treatments that we've talked about can be used on children, Stephanie?
No, not this Spravato or the TMS. I think
Right.
they just approved TMS for 16.
teens, yeah.
15?
15.
Yes,
Yeah.
15.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
teenagers. Okay.
Correct. So that's the TMS, which is wonderful. But there's other.
Yes, you can use that.
Yep.
That we can go into the single digits with kids. And of course, they don't make the headband appropriate for small kids. So
Yeah.
we're creative in how we make
Right.
that work. But yeah, the goal there, again, is for the kids. Actually, we have the interactive metronome. I forgot about that. That is what our primary choice is for kids. So it's literally like the kids think they're playing a video game, but everything is related to, again, self-soothing.
Wow.
And the interactive metronome is actually used by different specialties. You've got mental health, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language pathologists. It's widely used because, again, it just captures the attention of the kids, which we know.
Right.
Most of those programs, and there's hundreds of them, of the different apps that we have, they're only 3 to 5 minutes in length. So you run this program, the kid's working out the energy, the anxiety,
Right,
whatever it is.
right.
Then you sit down and do 5-10 minutes of talk therapy. Let them run on that again for 3 to 5 minutes, maybe do some art therapy. So it's kind of backdoor ways of using what they're used
Enhancing,
to.
yeah.
Screen time, right?
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
So we're going
unfortunately.
with the resistance instead of against it.
Right.
But they're actually clinically benefiting from the programs because they are clinically based.
Wow. Now, do some of the things we talked about today, are those also for substance abuse issues or just for mental health issues?
I'm not sure which ones we're using for substance. I know that we do provide MAT, which is medically assisted treatment,
Right.
for certain people. So I don't know what medications they're prescribing for people that are substance use. I think you have to be in recovery or at least trying to be sober in order to be treated.
I gotcha.
Yeah, the only qualifiers for a person that has been active in addictions now in recovery is you have to be 30 days sober to do TMS.
Oh, okay.
Spravato has 0 studies with the addicted population, but I can tell you that we have had individuals that were previously addicted that have been in recovery. The time in recovery is varies anywhere from 6 months because they didn't really disclose up front to years of recovery under their belt and have been successful using Spravato. Because it had association with ketamine.
Now, yeah, the Spravato is what again? I'm
It's
sorry.
the S-ketamine, so it's the nasal microdosing of ketamine.
Okay.
So it's a purer form, and the thing that Spravato, the manufacturer, did is that they put a cap that there's no euphoria attached to the experience. People dissociate, they have that out-of-body experience, and not everybody's, reaction's kind of
Right,
different.
right.
But there was that correlation that, will that trigger somebody that had a past addiction history?
Right.
What we found, and again, there's no official studies, this is just observation over the last year and a half of providing the service, nobody's been triggered back to use, plus you can only get it in office. There's more controls there.
I gotcha.
Makes it less likely to become addictive or trigger something.
Wow.
But not officially.
No, I got you. And I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not here saying everything works, it's 100%, What kind of, because believe it or not, we're almost out of time. I told you to go fast. What kind of success do you all have? And if you can break it down, maybe, if you don't want to break it down into categories, because it sounds like you're kind of taking a holistic approach to treatment.
Yes.
Tell us about success.
So for TMS and Spravato specifically, because those manufacturers, providers have the data and it aligns with them. So it's 70% effective in treating treatment-resistant depression. I have seen acute suicidal ideation where the person has the plan, has the intent, and it's not a Baker Act type situation, so they're okay.
Right.
Where within 3 to 5 days of taking that, they feel better already. So you've got that kind of empirical, kind of just, firsthand information.
That you have seen being in the field. Right. Okay.
So I think statistics of success is similar to the SUD world where it's hard to gauge, right? Because we have clients that they get better, so they stop coming. Life happens, they can't afford it, they stop coming. They move, they stop coming.
Right.
So what I would say that the way I gauge success, and we are trying to put some evidence-based measures to capture some data for that, moving forward, that's what the field is looking for. It's the amount of supervision and support that we give our providers. You'll hear about agencies that provide minimal to no supervision, even though they should. At iMind, we invest a lot to ensure that our providers are up to speed with what they need to do.
Okay, when you talk about providers, what are you talking about?
Master's level clinicians for
the
therapy.
providers within your iMind.
Or psychiatric providers, within our care. The bar is set pretty high to always be up to speed with current technology, current treatments, current interventions. We pay for training, so not only does it benefit the clinician, but it also benefits the clients and the agency.
Right.
So when you're talking about success, we're trying to just be as diverse, educated, skilled, competent as possible to be able to provide those services.
And I've got a quick question before we're out of time. Does talk therapy by itself still work? You've got a lot of bells and whistles. I'm just curious.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So as a clinician, I can say I'm still amazed by how something that is so small or simple in somebody's life, because again, from the outside looking in, it's like you didn't realize that if you just went left instead of right, everything would be better. And I'm scratching my head. I don't say this in session.
No, I know.
But for the individual, it's not always diagnosable. It's not always catastrophic.
Right.
If people could understand, if you just be proactive, it doesn't have to get to that point where it has to be diagnosed, treated with medication, treated with the alternatives. We just added everything else in because unfortunately in life, people are too reactive instead of proactive.
I love it. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.